let's adopt a comfortable posture. Take 3 deep breaths, releasing any tension with the out breath, relaxing completely in your meditation posture. Just leaving your spine straight, allowing the breath to flow naturally, cultivating relaxation. Now set your motivation for this practice. Now let's count 21 breaths, relaxing with each out breath, deeper and deeper. And now, while continuing with that sense of relaxation, stability, and vividness of the mind, let's remember that we've been reflecting on our transient nature and mortality. And this makes us concerned with preparing for death. And if we believe in the continuity of consciousness for our future rebirths too. To do this, we need guides on the path, on this journey of our lives, and the next journey when we die. So let's reflect on what can be a reliable guide. First, consider what your future would be like if you continue to live on automatic. Be aware of the possibility of experiencing suffering in the future. What have you been taking refuge on? On material possessions? Do you think this can be a reliable source of refuge? Or will they fail you? Will they vanish, break, disappear? Can you rely on friends, on relationships, or they can end at any time? Will you be able to take them with you after death? Can you rely on your accumulation of knowledge and titles, and achievements? Can you even rely on your body? Can any of these things give you lasting happiness? Can any of these things be a true refuge? Can you hold on to any of these things? Remember that others are in the same situation as you are, and let your compassion for them arise, so that you seek a means to progress spiritually for their sake as well as for your own. Now contemplate the analogy of the sick person who is seeking a cure to their illness. Beings trapped in cyclic existence are like sick people. So if we looked for a doctor to diagnose our illness and prescribe a cure, we could say that the Buddha has been such a doctor, or any practitioner that has achieved enlightenment, realized the potential we all have as human beings. And the Dharma is a medicine that we must take in order to cure our illness. It's a collection of teachings and methods that can help us be free from suffering and achieve our true potential. The realization of our own Buddha nature. And the Sangha are the nurses who help us take it. It's a community of friends and practitioners, both those who have walked this path before us, who have achieved realizations, and those who are like us, trying to live an ethical way of life, trying to cultivate their minds, trying to develop meaningful motivations, trying to understand reality and be free of suffering. So if we take refuge in this way, we can be liberated from misery. So why would we consider Buddhas as suitable guides on the path? They are free from the extremes of cyclic existence and self-complacent peace. They have skillful and effective means to free others from all fear. They have equal compassion for all, regardless of whether we have faith in them or not. And they fulfill the aims of beings, whether or not those beings have helped them. So think of all those realized practitioners that have practiced for centuries before our time and achieved those realizations and helped countless beings with their activities. But not only we think of those realized beings as a source of refuge, but in our own Buddha nature, our own potential to become Buddhas, in our own primordial consciousness, which is already here, right now, but is obscured by mental afflictions, by cognitive obscurations, by the reification of a self. Call it as you wish. You don't have to call it Buddha nature. But connect with that part, that sense of you which transcends grasping, that deeper level of consciousness, or that divine part of you. However you want to see it. But you can trust that. That will never disappoint you. It's your very own true nature. We can also take refuge in the Dharma, which are all the teachings or the lessons we receive from life, from the texts, the teachings, everything that helps us in that path. Because that practice that we do, that understanding of reality, that cultivation of loving kindness and compassion, is something that will come with us after death. And we can take refuge in the community of those who are on the path, those who continuously do the motivation of being of benefit to others. To make a vow of keep coming until each and every sentient being has been completely liberated. So with a sense of caution regarding suffering and with confidence in the ability of these three jewels, from your heart, turn to them for guidance. From your heart, make a determination to follow these reliable guides and to put into practice their guidance. Feel that you are not alone. That you are part of a community of beings working to be free, practicing the cultivation of causes for the genuine happiness of all beings. And you can hold on to these three jewels because they will take you all the way out of samsara, out of conditioned cyclic existence, an existence full of suffering, dissatisfaction, pain, confusion. So having entrusted our spiritual guidance to these three jewels, we want to follow their counsel. And the first advice they give us is to stop harming others and ourselves, and to help whenever we can. So stay with that advice in your heart. Determine to put it into practice. just rest for a moment in the present without conceptualization, just aware of being aware. And stretch a little bit. Come back. So we've been taking refuge all our lives, and maybe previous lives, in the 8 worldly concerns, right? In that search for material wealth, in that search of praise and recognition and fame and sensory pleasures. Yet, somehow these things, by their very nature, they are impermanent. They cannot give us lasting happiness. They cannot be a reliable source of refuge. But we still think that somehow we will find something external out there that we can hold on to, and that will make us happy, that will make us happy forever, that will finish all our problems. Someday, if we keep making effort, we might find that house, that relationship, that job, that treasure, maybe, whatever you're looking for. And then you think, then I'm going to be completely happy forever. Even in the Disney movies, right? We see, and they were happy forever. We have all these movies, Hollywood movies, ending with the happy ending that you're going to be happy forever, except they don't tell you you're going to get old, you're going to get sick, and you're going to die, and it's not going to end well. No story ends with a happy ending, right? Not like in the movies. That's why they cut it there, because we don't want to know the rest. So somehow we still have that fantasy, that illusion. And when we reflect on that, we cannot even take refuge in ourselves. I mean, not in this ordinary relative self, because our bodies, as we are seeing with the first application of mindfulness, is impermanent. It's changing all the time, and it's going to die and transform into earth or ashes or something else, right? It's just matter in constant change. We cannot take refuge in our minds. Our thoughts are constantly changing. Our emotions are constantly changing. There's nothing there you can hold on to. It's also impermanent. But there is a deeper level of you, which is a non-self, but yet is there. Right? We cannot grasp it with words, with concepts. Yet is the nature of reality, and is your Buddha nature or your primordial consciousness. In the Dzogchen tradition is called Rigpa or is also called like a deeper level of wisdom. It's wisdom and compassion, right? And we take refuge in that primordial consciousness, in that deeper level, and our potential to be fully awake within the dream, to be fully lucid in this dream, in our capacity to realize our true nature. Because if you take refuge in that, that's gonna take you all the way to freedom. Because when everything else falls apart and vanishes and disappears, that's the only thing that remains. And we take refuge in the Dharma, the path, the instructions on how to connect with that Buddha nature, in the instructions on how to remove the mental afflictions, on how to understand reality of how we exist, how others exist, how the universe exists in relation to us. How can we be free? How can we cultivate the causes of happiness? Well, the instructions are there if you want to look for them, right? So the Dharma is not a book or a text or a particular object. It's the knowledge that is in them. And that knowledge is not a rational understanding, because that's on your ordinary psyche, your coarse mind, and that's going to dissolve the moment you die. But it's a deeper level of understanding, and that's something you're going to take from this life. It's going to accompany you all the journey, right? And the Sangha is all those who have followed a path of realization and discovered that potential and have made a commitment to help others realize it. So we see the Buddha we know because there has been many Buddhas, right? But the historical Buddha, Siddhartha, he lived how long ago? More than 2,500 years ago. Yet his teaching is still relevant today. And he did it out of compassion. He spent 45 years of his life teaching and helping others. And thanks to those teachings and instructions, many, many practitioners over the years have found that true nature and achieved enlightenment or liberated themselves, right? So we can take refuge also in the Sangha. And in Buddhism, there is a ritual if you want to take a Buddhist refuge. But these things are a refuge that doesn't have to be Buddhist or Hindu or Christian. I mean, you can connect with that primordial level of consciousness, and that can be your guide. And you can find teachings in many places and many guides and communities. The thing is that it's very easy to deceive ourselves and to follow the ego, the voice of the ego, not the voice of our wisdom, right? So it's up to us where we take that refuge, right? But it's connecting with this true inner sources of wisdom. Yet if you ever feel that the Buddhist path is for you, there is a little ritual when you ask a lama or a teacher to give you refuge. They will usually do a ceremony. The Tibetans do a ceremony where they give you a name, and it's something symbolic, to say, from now on you're dissolving your name, your identity, you're grasping to that self, to your story, and then I give you this new name. The thing is that nowadays people grasp too much to the new name, right? It's the same, but the idea is that ritual helps, and then there is they cut a little hair from your head, and that is also a symbol. When Siddhartha left the palace, he gives his horse to his attendant that was coming with him. Says, now I'm leaving everything behind, and he exchanged his clothes with him, and he had like a long hair, like a long braid, you say braid, and then he cut it, right? And so it's a symbol of renunciation, of leaving behind that life of meaningless pursuits, of putting your refuge on those 8 worldly concerns. And so, and then you repeat some words with the teacher, and they usually do it in a long ceremony, generally after an empowerment or a big teaching. They offer this ceremony, right? But mainly it's an internal thing. It's an understanding of why these are considered 3 jewels, because these practitioners have looked everywhere. Okay, it's not in material things, it's not in relationships, it's not in achieving success, it's not in holding on to my body or my existence in this relative existence, right? And they found that these are 3 reliable sources of refuge. So that's part of the path. And there's a little kind of prayer, but it's mostly a meditation where you are directing your mind towards these jewels so that you connect from the heart, right? So I'm going to give you this short text that in the Buddhist path we usually say this every morning, or you can do it in your first meditation session of the day, and it helps connect with this. So it has the refuge. It's just 4 lines. It has the we usually do it 3 times, because the first time you're distracted, the second time you might pay a little attention, and then the third time maybe you do that connection, right? So by repetition again, you start making those, gaining that understanding, and then comes 4 lines of the 4 immeasurables, where you can say them and then just pause and do like a mini meditation on each one of these 4. And then there is the motivation of bodhicitta, this altruistic motivation of achieving enlightenment, the benefit of all beings. And then there is a dedication that you can do at the end of any session, or at any moment during when you do a positive activity, a positive action, and you want to dedicate the merit of that constructive action, right? So can someone help me give this to everyone? So do you have any questions about this? No? Okay, so I forgot to mention about the dream yoga practice that there's one instruction that some teachers recommend, and I mentioned it before, but I didn't mention it now, that we were talking about dream yoga, and it's that if you wake up in the middle of the night, or a few hours, couple of hours usually before your normal wake-up time, and you spend from 15 minutes to 2 hours. 2 hours is what Stephen Levers recommends in this book, but some teachers recommend just 15 minutes. And can you give this to Suzanne? She's ill, so can you give it to her? So waking up 2 hours before and setting your intention of having lucid dreams helps a lot, because in the morning time or closer to the waking up time, there are more dreams and more possibility of having lucid dreams. So if you reinforce your motivation at that time, it helps. And also if you are awake for some time, when you go back to sleep, the sleep is not as deep, it's kind of more superficial. So there's more chances of being lucid. And you can use that time to read something related to dream yoga or to write about your dreams, something that reminds you about the dream yoga practice. So, but we also don't want our sleep to be disrupted by putting an alarm and turning on the light and start reading a screen or something. So what I would recommend is just try to set your intention in the night, and that's enough. But if you wake up naturally in the middle of the night because you just wake up and then you sleep later, or because you went to the bathroom but you're still sleepy and you can go back to sleep, then use that opportunity to set up your motivation to have lucid dreams again. And again, do the technique of starting to visualize what are you going to do as soon as you realize you're dreaming, right? And so that can help a lot. And also, if you are in the middle of the day and you want to take a nap, don't feel guilty. It's an opportunity to practice dream yoga. So say I'm going to take a nap, but I'm going to do dream yoga practice before I'm going to take the nap. Set your intention, settle the mind in its natural state, and do the visualization of being lucid in the dream. So during naps, our sleep is still is also superficial, or not very deep. That's what I mean. So you can have more chances of recognizing that it's a dream. And sometimes you just wake up a little bit. You're kind of still dreaming or still in the dream zone, but you become aware of the room or your body. It kind of just start waking up and then you go again into sleep. So if you manage to, at that moment, to say, oh, it's a dream, I should be lucid, and then without waking yourself up, but allowing yourself to go back into the dream, there is chances of recognizing that you're dreaming. Okay? Just wanted to mention that. Any questions about this or dream yoga? Yeah?
Well, not about dream yoga, so
Yeah.
I'll wait.
No, it's okay. Anything.
It's a question about the line breathing.
The what?
The 3 lines.
The channels.
Yeah,
the 9 breathing exercise.
Yeah. Red is compassion, clear red. No, is wisdom. Clear red is wisdom?
Yeah.
Clear white is compassion? Okay. And clear blue is?
It's the union of wisdom and compassion. It's the enlightened mind, the enlightened energy.
The union. Okay.
So we also have these 3 chakras. In the Tantric Buddhism, we speak about having a chakra in the head, and that's associated with the body. Is white and with the syllable Om. So when we do, for example, the practice of Guru Yoga, we purify with white light, we purify the obscurations of the body. Then in the throat chakra, we have the syllable A. A-H. Ah. And this is red and is connected with the speech. So we purify the speech, releasing all negative speech and kind of getting that red light here. And then in the heart chakra, we have the blue syllable, hum. Hum, say the Tibetans, hung. No, hung, say the Tibetans, hum, say in is said in Sanskrit, whatever you prefer to say. So omahum or omahung, right? And there's additional syllables and chakras, but these are the main ones, right? Body, speech, and mind are main doors of communicating with the world. And through these doors, we are continuously creating negative karma. So we need to purify them and start having meaningful action, meaningful speech, meaningful thought. Okay? And so if you see there are again these three colors of Mahum. And you can do a connection of this with mindfulness of breathing. There's a meditation where you inhale and you mentally say Om, you retain for a moment and you mentally say Ah, and then you exhale and say Hum, Om Ahum, Om Ahum. And it's like repeating this kind of very little mantra. They are all root syllables and they are sounds that connect us to that primordial consciousness or Buddha nature. Anything else? Someone was asking first. You?
Me?
Yeah.
Okay. Well,
Alan, sorry.
I was doing investigations on feeling meditation. Yeah. So when I recalled it instructed some objects. The initial feeling tone was basically the same for basic object of pleasure and for some more important object of pleasure. Was the feeling tone initially the same? So then I kind of investigated like what gives the intensity of, because I sense that some objects have more intense feeling of pleasure and some less or displeasure, or some are more pleasant, more intensive, unpleasant, some less. And then I kind of got this understanding, insight, when I was recalling the unpleasant objects. And I kind of got this insight that, I don't know if it's right, on the right path, but that it's not that much of intensity of the elemental feeling, but it's more like the rate of the feeling, because when I recall something lightly unpleasant, something mundane, yeah, it was unpleasant feeling, but it got away quickly. But when I recalled, for example, something that is really important to me, like health of my son, for example, or something like this is something that I'm really attached to and I cling to. So the initial feeling was the same as for like bad cake, but because it stayed with my mind, I clinged on and on, I perceived this, like the rate of this pleasant feeling was in every moment of consciousness. So I got the insight that this is what gives the intensity of, am I on the right path or not?
Yeah, that's a good insight. It's good investigation. So keep looking, and ask those questions. Okay?
Okay.
Good.
Thank you.
Yes?
I want to ask that visualizing the future versus dreaming, like, what is there a difference? Like, I mean, when I lie down, then if there are some intentions or some future plans, they seem to come as visual images or journeys. So would that be dreaming or like?
I don't know if I understand your question very well, but when you mean when you are about to fall asleep, right?
Yes.
So if you are visualizing something, it's just a visualization, and it can be just a distraction, right? Like daydreaming. But if you are consciously saying, as soon as I fall asleep, I'm gonna dream that I am in Thailand and I'm visiting the Buddha's temple, right? For giving you an example. So you start visualizing yourself appearing in Thailand and going to that temple that you want to visit. You visualize everything. You imagine the dream, right? And you imagine knowing that is a dream. So by doing that, is programming in your mind that when you fall asleep, you want to dream that dream, right? So it's an exercise uh, to give direction to what you want to dream about. But not necessarily it's going to happen, right? Maybe you dream other things. But the idea is that it helps becoming lucid in the dream. Is that clear?
This example you gave now, I don't know in Thailand which temple or whatever, but if I give this as an example to myself, like...
No, don't give, that's just an example that I'm saying, but you can choose whatever dream you want to dream. Not my example, okay? So you can choose to dream anything, basically. You can decide you want to dream that you're flying and you are going to come out of the planet and explore Mars. Anything you want. Even though you've never been in Mars, your mind will generate a dream that makes sense for you. Okay? Yeah.
What at the root of it, what is actually the purpose of lucid dreaming?
The purpose of lucid dreaming, in the modern tradition of lucid dreaming, is just to have control over your dreams instead of being carried away by them and being suffering in the dream, and learn something about yourself, work with your fears, work with your with whatever limitations you're experiencing. It's kind of therapeutic. But in the dream yoga tradition, which is slightly different than the lucid dreaming, that's why we call it dream yoga, the purpose is to practice all of this, shamatha, vipashyana, bodhicitta, all the practices, and particularly vipassana, like importing that knowledge you gain in the dream state of everything being empty of inherent nature, being in a state of flux, and bringing that knowledge into the waking state too. So this reality we perceive so solid is like a dream, you see? So a Buddha knows that it's a dream and can pass through walls, or can walk on water, or can change their form, can do anything because they're free. They're not clinging to the dream as being inherently existent from its own side. So a Buddha means awake, the awakened. So we want to be lucid in this dream, but we practice in the dream state. Okay, so when you're in the dream state, you can do any of the meditations and practices too. You can do tantric practices in the dream state. You can, there's no limits to what you can do in a dream. Okay. Yes?
What was the name of the book that you were referencing this morning?
Exploring the World of Lucid Dreaming.
And is that like Tibetan Buddhist tradition, or that's
No,
Like
that's the scientist I was telling you about. That he developed this thesis about how to prove lucid dreaming. Yet, by doing research, he found that Tibetan Buddhism had a long tradition of dream yoga. He got interested, so in his books, he mentions a little bit about this. He gives references.
What is
There
it?
is a guy. His name is Charlie Moore. He has become. He was student of Akon Rinpoche and Lama Yeshe in Scotland, in Gomde. No, not Gomde. It's called Samyeling. It's one of the first, the first Buddhist center in the West, and this Westerner, he became pretty adept at the practice of dream yoga, and now he teaches courses on dream yoga and has very interesting talks you can find online and books also. So that's also a good resource if you want to learn more about dream yoga. Yes?
Can you meditate on a lucid dream
In a lucid dream? Yeah, although something interesting happens. If you start watching your breath or doing shamatha practice, because you're not paying attention to the appearances of the dream, you're paying attention to your mind or to your breath, the dream tends to dissolve and you enter into dreamless sleep, a sleep without dreams, but you can be lucid there and keep practicing. But if you want to keep manifesting the dream, you have to engage with the appearances somehow. But yeah, you can practice visualization practices. Like if you have the empowerment of Tara and you can visualize yourself as Tara and do the mantra, but you will see your body transformed, right? Or you can practice generosity and go visit communities and give them food and medicine. And that seems like, well, it's not really happening because it's my dream, but you're planting seeds, you're creating mental imprints, habits. In the same way that if in your dream you are killing or harming others, you're creating those mental imprints. So we want to use the dream as a virtual reality to practice. So, nowadays there's these glasses of virtual reality. So you put them on and you're in this environment. You can even be talking with people that are in other country and they're connecting there and you're talking with them. So in that virtual reality of your glasses, you can go and play poker and make bets, or you can go and do something helpful or constructive, right? You can meditate with others, for example. I don't know. So that has an impact on your mind, even though it's a virtual reality. And this reality is also a virtual reality. It's just that we believe in it as being more real. Yeah. Yes, you have a question?
Yeah, you mentioned a movie in the morning. So
Waking Life. It's made by Richard Linklater.
sorry, bye.
Richard, I think it's Linklater or something. Yeah? That's his. Yes?
When scanning the feelings, when one comes across a feeling which one is not sure what it is, pleasurable or displeasurable,
It's probably neutral.
but so does one stay there waiting for it to change, or does one just go ahead?
You investigate it. You ask the questions. Is it permanent or impermanent? So you're watching it. And you ask the question, is it I, me, mine? And you investigate. Is it a true cause of happiness or a true cause of suffering? So you investigate the 3 marks or characteristics of existence on it. And then you can, if it's lingering for some time, you can move and observe other feelings arising. And then when it dissolves, you say, oh, I notice it's not there anymore.
But it will give rise to a different feeling, right? Pleasure, like from neutral feeling, it will become either pleasurable or...
It could transform into a pleasurable or displeasurable. For example, you're sitting now and you probably have a neutral feeling for being sitting, but sit for an hour and you might start experiencing some disagreeable feelings connected to the discomfort that you're experiencing, right? Like they're uncomfortable feelings. So, yeah, the same feeling they're always giving rise to other feelings. The thing is, right there in these feelings is where we can stop creating and perpetuating the causes of suffering and cyclic existence. Because when a feeling of pleasure arises, we immediately, almost instantaneously, we crave or attach to it. And when a displeasurable feeling arises, we immediately reject it. So we want to start observing so we can create that space and decide consciously not to react impulsively with attachment, aversion, or indifference. Okay? Well, thank you. Have a good evening. And before we go, let's use this text to dedicate together. We're gonna just read it once together, okay? Okay, so please say it out loud with me at the same time. I go for refuge until enlightenment is achieved, to the Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha. By the merit of practicing generosity and other virtuous deeds, may I attain Buddhahood for the welfare of all sentient beings. Then comes the Tibetan. We're going to skip that. Just put it there so that if you want to learn it. And then the 4 immeasurables. May all sentient beings have happiness and its causes. May all beings be happy of the causes of happiness. May they be free of suffering and the causes of suffering. May they never be parted from sublime bliss, free from suffering. May they dwell in equanimity without attachment and hatred to those near and far. Sorry for the double line, but it's good to repeat it 3 times too. So, and then the bodhicitta aspiration. May bodhicitta, precious and sublime, arise in those whom it has not arisen, for it has arisen, may never decline, but grow and flourish ever more and more. And then the dedication. By this merit may I attain omniscience and defeat the enemy wrongdoing. From the stormy waves of birth, old age, sickness, and death, from the ocean of existence, may all beings be free. So every tradition, every lineage has a slightly different way of saying it. This is one of the most common ways of saying these little prayers or aspirations. And if you already, I know some of you already been studying in Dharma centers, if you have your own way of doing it, just keep doing it that way. But this, just in case you want to include this in your meditation, you can recite this and then meditate, and that will help kind of start your meditation day, your practice. Not just sit and start thinking about the supermarket list or other things, and then, 24 minutes went by, I finished my meditation, let's go. But you never meditated, right? So this can be a way to start. And if you can, do in your house a little space for your meditation cushion and put a little shrine maybe with things that for you represent these spiritual aspirations. then that can motivate you. You can light an incense or a candle and then recite this and maybe do the 9 breath exercise, and then that can tell your mind it's time to meditate. Collect your mind, ground yourself, and start your meditation. Okay? And then at the end, you can do the first part at the beginning, then do your shamatha or vipashyana practice, or if you're going to do one of the 4 immeasurables, you would skip this. And then at the end of the session, you do this short meditation, and it's a way to remember how to do it. Okay? But you can also just do it in your own way or your own mind or words. Okay?